Hello, everybody. Welcome to this presentation. My name is Nuria Jaumot-Pascual, and my co-authors are Jennifer Knudsen, Elise Levin-Güracar, and Sarah Grams. And Jennifer is here with me presenting today. The title of our presentation is I Finally Figured Out How to Do It, Math and Maker Identity Development. We are talking today about the Amped for Making project, which is a collaboration between Turk, a nonprofit organization that specializes in STEM education, research evaluation, and curriculum development, and the Cesar Chavez Foundation, which is a foundation in California that focuses on improving the lives of Latinx people and working class people in the US. Amped for Making was a 2-year after-school program that integrated math and making in semester-long units. During the semesters, the activities centered around mini maker projects that led up to a larger project focused on making something for the youth's own communities. And one of the very important elements of Amped for Making was the implementation of the community-centered values of labor organizer Cesar Chavez. And for that, what we did was that the activities in the program were directly related to 4 different levels of community, from closer to furthest from the participants, so from family to after school program to school to their neighborhood. The goal of the program is to engage youth in a blend of design and making in and for the community in what we call consequential making to enhance and develop youth's positive identities as makers, mathematical doers and users, and community members. Our main research question that we're going to be answering today is how do youth identity as makers, mathematics doers and users, and community members change with the participation in the program?
We used 4 ideas from the literature to frame this work. The first is consequential making, which Nuria just told you about. An important part of the way Barton and Tan frame that is students thinking about the future values and consequences of the making rather than just the immediate consequences. We also use the Cesar Chavez community values that emphasize individual development in the context of progress and prosperity. Math identity has been a really important concept for the past 20 years or so in math education, and we build on ideas by Martin and others about perseverance, predilections, attitudes, behaviors that indicate a positive math identity, and also maker mindset, which is in part keeping a playful point of view about things that are consequentially made.
For the research in this project, we used a mixed methods design that included both quantitative and qualitative instruments. We had pre-post surveys, pre-post math assessments, facilitator reflection forms, facilitator interviews, and youth object elicitation interviews. Just a quick definition of object elicitation, because that is one of the main data collection methods that we used, is that it's a method that centers the youth interview around an object that they made during the program. So because they made this object, it embodies their knowledge, their skills, and their attitudes. And they decenter the interviewee dyad, and it focuses more on the object and the youth who made this object. Here we're talking about the findings from this project, and one of the main findings was the idea of identity and community. As we have mentioned, they worked on different dimensions of community, and they valued having the opportunity to express these different dimensions of their identities, such as their cultural background, being part of a family, through the projects that they made. So, for example, youth would make stuffies to represent different elements of community, and one of the participants made a Mexican flag stuffy. Or also when they were thinking about the school community, they were making planters. And when they were finishing them and thinking about what to plant, they talked about planting not only beautiful flowers to beautify the school, but also useful plants such as mint or aloe vera that would be useful for community members if they got an upset stomach or if they got a sunburn. Also, they make things like cubbies for the after-school community to be able to keep their projects and their materials together from day to day, from week to week. We also have the finding of their identity as makers. The youth were proud of their accomplishments in the program. They were always very excited to show us their objects that they made during the program, and they explained the different steps that they did as they made those projects. Also, what we noticed is that the youth became much more comfortable explaining the steps, explaining how they solved any problems that they run into, and how they make decisions along the process. So they went from halting speech to much more fluent speech and being able to be quite articulate in how they explain those processes.
We also have a set of findings around math learning and math identity. We saw increased ability to express ideas in mathematics. Youth could talk about the application of the math ideas with greater sophistication. They became more confident in their math abilities. They had awareness of their own growth as math doers and users and awareness of the role of math in the making processes. For example, a common topic that youth talked about in the beginning and in the end was the use of units, such as centimeters or inches. In the beginning, they would just say, we use centimeters or we used inches. But later on, they could say things like, we used millimeters because it was really important to be precise when we're making something, designing something that's going to be printed on a 3D printer. So in conclusion, by setting these making projects in a community context, we really saw opportunities to develop positive community, maker, and math identities, and that they naturally arose from the making activities. Our finding concurs with others in the field that there's a deep connection between learning mathematics and mathematics identity. And as far as recommendations, we recommend a broader adoption of a curriculum like these that brings math and making together and that integrates youth's identities and cultures. If you have questions, feel free to contact any of us. Here are our email addresses, which will be available to you in electronic form. And we want to acknowledge that our funding came from the National Science Foundation and that any opinions, findings, conclusions expressed here are those of the authors alone and don't necessarily reflect the views of NSF. We also really want to thank the youth and the facilitators for their participation in the program and in data collection and for sharing their insights with the team. And thank you.
Thank you.